Hello everyone and welcome to Gamesplaning, where I take a look at games and explain them to the best of my ability to you. Now, today we're having a look at Anno 1800, a city builder quite recently released by Ubisoft or published by Ubisoft and developed by byte. Now, for those of you that do not know, byte made one of my favorite game series when I was young, Settlers. Oh my god, that game series is so good. I still love Settlers 2. I play it sometimes, but it hasn't... well, it has aged surprisingly well considering how old it is. But yeah, one thing to note, I have received this game as a review copy when I wrote a review on it for Nerdliv. If you can read Swedish and understand Swedish, please do have a look at it. I'll put a link down below in the description, and you can read what I really think about the game. But now, let's quickly go through it a bit. Have you ever wanted to be a dictator or a ruler of islands? Just going around the ocean with your ships, discovering new islands, discovering new lands, like America, and then just settling there, building up your production, making money, you know, all those things. Because that's kind of what you do in Anno. Now, those of you that played City Skylines know that this is a great game. City Skylines is very good in itself, but if you like a more kind of survivalist spin on it, I guess, I feel like City Skyline is way more chill in a way than Anno is. Yeah, Anno is a chill game. It is a very calm and collected game, let's say, but it does have a lot of problem solving. It is kind of... you always have problems in the game. So you always need to solve something. Is it a economical problem? It might be a production problem. There's always something to solve. And that's kind of the love of the game, because you always find things to solve. And after you solve the thing, you realize that you have another problem that solving the problem costs. So that is a lot of what the game is about, and I really love it. Now, if you played any of the Anno games, especially Anno 1404, it is the only Anno game that I've played before, you will probably love this game. I really do love it. It is great. You really get the feeling of being in the industrial era, where you have these massive machines, and the sound design is so good in the areas where you have all your steelworks. You can just hear the machines pumping in the background, and there's just steam and smoke just coming up from everywhere. It is really great. Now, from what I can tell, this game is very much loyal to its predecessors in the way that it plays. It is very similar to Anno 1404, from what I could tell. There are some quality of life fixes, and there are some new mechanics mixed in. Like, for example, the new world. Now, that is a mechanic that I truly love. It adds an entirely new map that you have to send an expedition to, and it's like way harder to pass from the new world to the old world rather than trading just in general with other people on the map. So that adds kind of an element of tactics, because you have to trade some of the wares created in the new world to the old world, and that's how you make the real money from having a settlement in the new world. And it's quite interesting in that sort of sense. But then there is also the addition of influence. Now, as I mentioned, I've only played Anno 1404, and influence was not a thing in that game, but I'm not sure about the other ones that are newer. But I really do like the influence mechanic. Now, influence is something that you use to change things that you usually don't want to be a certain way. Like, you have this sort of mechanic where you sometimes get newspaper clippings, like, oh yes, well, this happened on your island this last month, and they give you positive and negative effects. Now, those that give you negative effects, or those that give you positive if you are insane, you can switch them out to other effects, and that's what's called propaganda. Now, obviously, some of the AI do not like the usage of propaganda. They are against it, and some of them are for it. So, depending on who you choose to ally with, you might want to use propaganda a lot, or you might not want to use it that much. I do certainly love the usage of propaganda. If you do it too much, your citizens start to not like you because you are obviously telling lies to them, covering things that have happened. But
As a center, it is
usually
the
the rewards outscale that so much, because the more you use propaganda, the better you become at using it. So if you keep just using propaganda time and time again, in the end you'll make there's so much profit in using propaganda in the end, so that it's totally worth it just going double down on propaganda all the time. But at the same time, that goes for the other ways to use influence. You can use it for trade, you can use it for war, all those kinds of things, because after a while you can't really buy ships anymore without people going, why are you having so many ships? And at that point you have to use influence to allow you to buy ships from them, or create ships by yourself, because, well, they will be suspicious that you are going to war with someone. And that's kind of a cool mechanic as well. And then there's also these same kind of things for trading. I really just like the influence mechanic as it is baked into the game. Now, other than that, this game is very much like Anno 04. I've mentioned that several times, but it is not much more that you can say. It is very similar, but in a different time, and as I said, a lot of quality of life. It's always been in the Anno games, I guess, but it's kind of an interesting puzzle to do, is the part of creating these very effective zones. Like when you have farms that take like, oh yes, these require 144 squares. How do I place these squares to be as room effective as possible on my island? Because your islands are usually quite small, you need to fit a lot of things onto them. That's why you usually need more than one island as well. But always finding how to optimize the space on the island is really fun, because it is always kind of a puzzle until you figure it out. Like, for example, building the sheep farms is quite easy. Yeah, they're the first farms that you get. Oh yes, you can only put like 3 of these sheep pens that are the same size as the building. So you can easily create a square, and it's like, yeah, that's the room that I am expecting a farm of this size to use. But then you start to get into the places, as I mentioned, the wheat farms, where it's like, oh yes, these require massive amounts of area. How do I build these to be the most effective? It took a while for me to figure that out, but it is very satisfying when you do, and it is always so much more effective. Now this is kind of the game where you just start over several times, at least I do. I start a game, I realize I done stuff wrong. This is usually like when I played the first time. I did the same thing with Factorio, by the way. But I realized that, oh crap, I did stuff so wrong here. Oh, it's so bad. And then it's like, but I can start over and make everything better. Oh yeah, that's way better. Then I don't have to rebuild all this shit. And then you're like, oh yes, well now I started a new game and just playing along some more until I get to the same point where I start to make mistakes again. And then it's like, oh well, oh shit, I made some really bad mistakes, but I can just start over. And that's kind of the way it goes. Now the gameplay loop in this game is really good. It's really fun. It is kind of similar to Factorio in that sort of sense, because you are managing supply chains after all, so it's kind of the same objective. You just create these supply chains. After that you realize you need more workers, so you create more workers, then you need more supply chains for those workers. And that's kind of how it goes. Now, I've been rambling on quite intensely about this game, because I feel like there's so much to say, and I just wanted to get as much of it in as possible. But I think I feel like I've covered most of it. There are some aspects that I have not covered that you will have to find out for yourself. But I think that's kind of the charm of the game as well. Now, if you like this video, and especially if you like Anno, give this video a like, a thumbs up. And I will keep doing them. And also buy Anno, because it is a great game. You can play multiplayer in this as well, so it is just better and better. But that's my sale for it. I love Anno 1800, and I am very pleased with Blue Byte's newest addition to its series. But I have been Udalad. This has been Gamesplaining, and I hope you enjoyed yourself, because I sure did. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Very well.